Okay, so we have another battle report. This time this is my Knights of Bretonnia against a Vampire Count army. I've never played this guy before. Real nice guy. Some real cool modeling he's done in his army, and an army list that when I eventually start a Vampire Count's army, I'll probably have something similar to. I kind of like it. So anyway, there's an overview of the board. On the right-hand side, you see there's woods at the bottom, house, and then some impassable terrain at the top. Coming down on the left-hand side, there's a hill, woods, and another hill. And you can get an overview for how we deployed, but I will go into more detail starting now. On his left flank, my right flank, you can see he put a unit of Black Knights half in and half out of that woods. It's a pretty big unit. I think there's 7 of those guys, something like that. Anyway, he's got a small unit of dire wolves with some skeletons and then some crypt ghouls. Behind the crypt ghouls is a necromancer. Next to the necromancer is the vampire lord and another necromancer. In front of them is another unit of crypt ghouls, some grave guard, and a big old unit of dire wolves. Behind the impassable terrain, first time I've ever played against him, this is a Cairn Wraith unit with a banshee, and I'm assuming there's something similar to the I guess they're called spirit wraiths or something like that I have played against, where I'm going to need magical attacks to hurt them. But anyway, I see them there, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to play out. There's another unit of dire wolves on the left with some blood knights behind them. So, here's my thought. Put Pegasus Knights here to hit the wolves as quickly as I can, overrun or pursue them using flight and fly over the top of the blood knights so that I don't get creamed by them in return. Here's my fast cav. I'm thinking the blood knights are frenzied. If they're not, well, it really doesn't matter. I'm operating under the assumption that they are. So that's what those fast cav are designed to do, is to keep the blood knights on this side of the board, baiting them and fleeing, and just trying to keep them out of the main combats if I can. I put my Grille Knight unit over here with the damsel directly opposite the Cairn Wraith unit because all my attacks are magical. They're immune to psychology. Those Cairn Wraiths cause terror, and I think that's my best unit to deal with them. So then I have my Trebuchet, a unit of bowmen, my general, a big block of men-at-arms, skirmishing bowmen in the woods, another unit of bowmen on the left of the screen here, but they're to the right of those woods. I've got Pegasus Knights. Just behind them I have a big block of 9 Knights of the Realm, a block of 8 Knights Errant with my BSB, and a small unit of 10 men-at-arms being proxied by Empire Spearmen, and then my block of 6 Knights Errant. So I'm thinking over here is I want to use my Knights Errant and my men-at-arms and maybe my Pegasus Knights to deal with that unit of Black Knights. Once they're taken care of, my 2 big blocks of Knights have all the freedom to move around and choose my battles. I can go between the woods and the house, I can go to the left of the house, I can just go wherever I feel the most advantageous combats are going to be. So my opponent decides to let me go first. So I move my Pegasus Knights up as far as I can, believing I'm out of range of those wolves. It turns out I wasn't, but anyway, I thought I was. So that's why they're there. Put my Grail Knights on the hill, so as soon as those Cairn Wraiths move up, I can charge them. Inch forward a little bit with these guys, nothing too awful much. Here I take my Pegasus Knights and my Knights Errant, the small unit, and I put them wide apart with my men-at-arms going as quickly as they can towards the Black Knights unit. So you can see I'm trying to get him in a situation where he's going to have to get a flank attack by one of my guys. And you notice my big blocks, I'm just kind of hanging back until I'm going to inch forward a little bit and made sure I got over that hill so that I could see, but for the most part I'm just hanging back until we see what's going on up here. During my shooting phase, I land a stone right in the middle of the Crypt Ghoul unit and killed, I believe, 6 of them. It's a shame it didn't drift up another 2 inches and land on his general's head. That would have been nice. But I will take what I can get. So, Vampire Count's turn 1. He charges my Pegasus Knights with his wolves, and I was thinking I would just stand because my toughness 4, 3-up armor save, and I like my guys. I failed my fear test, and because he outnumbered me, my guys had to run. So that was frustrating and disappointing, to say the least. The The Cairn Wraiths move up. They have no fear at all of my Grail Knights. You can see he marched his wolves up very aggressively. You can see he's down to 5. I don't know how many were originally there. I think it was more like nine or so, but I shot him last turn. There's another view of the board. You can see he's kind of he's moving his infantry up. He's keeping his Blood Knights way back in the corner. Not sure why. On this side of the board, you can see he moved his other unit of wolves up, and his Black Knights, it really surprised me. He's keeping them stationary in the woods. I wasn't sure why he was doing that. Probably because he saw that I was going to get a flank attack on him no matter what he did otherwise. During the magic phase, one of his necromancers has something that allows him to raise d6 plus 9 zombies, and so he raises just a big old mess of zombies right there in the middle of the board. Okay, now this kind of got weird here. Sorry about that Grail Knight. It's like the only one I've painted, and I dropped him last week and haven't got around to fixing him yet. But pretty indicative of what happens anyway. The Banshee does her little howl thing. Apparently what you do is you roll 2 dice and you compare it to the leadership of that unit. And at the time he did this, he rolled an 11. My leadership is 8. That's a difference of 3. So I do 3 wounds. I take 3 wounds with no armor save. I saved 1 on the ward save, and 2 knights died. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I think I'm still okay. Those Grail Knights are tough. 2 attacks each, strength 6 on the charge. With combat res, I think I'm going to be okay. So, on my turn, you can see that's what I went with. I charged his Cairn Wraiths. My general charged that block of wolves just to get them out of the way. Pegasus Knights that were to the right of the house. Since his Black Knights are still in the woods, I go ahead and take these guys and charge into the side of those wolves just to get them out of the way so they're not messing with me. Move my men-at-arms up so that really he can't charge my Knights Errant. If he charges my men-at-arms, I'm just going to flee. If he sits there, I'm just going to keep turning around. So, I don't know. There's probably some things he could do, but I'm trying to get him to do something with those Black Knights so I can hopefully take care of him. Okay, now this is just the weird situation of the game. When it came time, after I'd moved all my chargers and all my other movement, he was looking at his book and realized that when he rolled the 11, instead of using the 11, he should have added 2 to it, and so instead of 3 wounds, it should have done 5 wounds. Of course, I saved 1 of them, and we decided, since it was a friendly game, to go ahead and let it go back, and I lost 2 more knights to his shooting phase of the turn before. And after I agreed to it, I realized, man, I wouldn't have charged with just a Grail Knight and a Damsel. And that's just a suicide mission, but I probably would have done my general differently as well. So it's just weird. I mean, whatever. I was curious to see how those Cairn Wraiths were in combat anyway, so we just let it go and anyway, just dealt with it. So predictably, his Cairn Wraiths, I shouldn't say predictably, I didn't know what to expect from them. Those things are tough. They wiped my Grail Knight, they just slapped my Grail Knight around like he was nothing. So, yeah, they win that. My general beat those wolves, so he's just standing out there. Pegasus Knights beat their wolves pretty easily. So we move on to Vampire Count turn 2. He charges my general with his Cairn Wraiths. In hindsight, I should have fled. I stayed there because I think my general's pretty tough and he has got a lot of saves. But what I didn't take into account was I don't have a magic weapon on him, and so I couldn't hurt them. And after I realized that, after I chose to stand and I realized there's no magic weapon, I realized I'm just going to lose my general. So at that point, you can see he's brought his Blood Knights up, my Grail Knights are gone, I've got nothing on this side of the board really, so in my mind what I decide is, okay, quit worrying about it, these are only peasants, let the peasants just stand here and hopefully draw his attention to the middle of the board. Everything I care about that's left is on the right of the board. So during his magic phase you can see he raises, no, he didn't raise those zombies, they were raised last time, so he's just turning them. He charged out at my men-at-arms, I fled, and so I'm set up for a beautiful series of charges on his Black Knights. During his magic phase, Wind of Undeath goes off, which I felt was very unlucky. And since my mage is dead, of course, I have no 2 Dispelled Ice and no scrolls or anything. But he had amazingly bad rolling when he rolled for each unit. So there's only 3 wounds done, and I got very lucky there. But there's a Spirit Host, which is beautifully modeled. It's a couple Empire state troops that have been painted like they're raised from the dead. It's a shame it's such an ugly picture because they're a beautiful model. So that's how it's looking right now. I don't know why I put my fast cav on the hill, but you can see I went ahead and took my Pegasus Knights and charged back into that unit because I really do think I can beat them. Not sure what I was thinking with the fast cav. You can see my archers in the corner. They failed their terror test because of those Karen Wraiths. And that's what we're looking like this side of the board. We'll see what happens during the next segment.